events features the top 8 from race 1 in reverse order, which means that Duarte Felix da Costa on the right-hand side of your screen in the blue Chevrolet Lachetti is the man who starts on pole position. The Portuguese driver finishing in 8th place in race 1. Alongside him, another Portuguese, the yellow Seat Leon. That is Francisco Carvalho. A third driver on the grid from Portugal, Jose Monroy, in the first of 3 Chevy Lachettis, followed by Harry Volkard and Michael Nukia. James Thompson finished 3rd in race 1. He lines up 6th ahead of Franz Engster and Norbert Michaelis. And the points go through the top 8, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, as you would expect in any FIA scoring system. And those points from both races are added up. The driver with the most points at the end, ta-da, is the winner. So, having won race 1, looking further back down the field there to the yellow Seat Leon Turbo Diesel of Norbert Michaelis, the 24-year-old from Hungary, there is the man who needs to do best in race 2. So Norbert Michaelis with 10 points at the moment from Engster and Thompson. And of course, if the top 3 in race 1 don't manage to work their way significantly through the field in race 2, then they will be stuck, I'm afraid, with the possibility of losing out to drivers who score higher. As I said, race 1 wet, and well, really for half the race the drivers were looking for water to cool the tyres. There's Martins Birkens of Latvia leading the Super 16, in fact he's leading the Super Production standings, Super 1600. There is only one Super 1600 car here, and that's Carsten Seifert of Germany in his Ford Fiesta. It said Super 1600, but it's not. Super Production cars. Marcus Birkens won that from Mikhail Zazaric of Russia. His first time out in a BMW, that car there going through the chicane. And 3rd in Super Production was Nikolai Kamashiev in his Volkswagen Golf, which looks more like a road car than a lot of Mark IV Golfs you might see in your local drive-through fast food restaurants. So the field being headed then by Duarte Felix da Costa, a regular in the Portuguese Championship, as are the men right behind him, Francisco Carvalho and Jose Monroy. They might be quite hard to get by. Duarte Felix da Costa in the Bamboo Motorsport Chevrolet Lachetti, teammate of Harry Volkard, although the car's looking very different. 2 different liveries. There's Volkard, red, white, green, white, and red, you idiot, green, white, and black car. And another 17-lapper of this tight 3-kilometer Braga circuit. The main feature, perhaps, is going to be this long straight. Again, revs rise. Lights go on, quick hold, and away they go. Let's see who makes the best of the start. Coming from row 2 of the grid, that's Jose Monroy with the yellow splitter. Trying to find a way through Harry Volkard as well. He's got a good run going on. Jose Carvalho. Carvalho not with a turbo diesel. That is a normal petrol engine Seat Leon. And Volkard, oh, and he gets turned around. Volkard and Franz Engster in there as well. The number 4 car. James Thompson going around the outside in the Honda. Oh, and Monroy and Engster, I think, colliding there. Monroy coming on, much delayed. Much delayed. So Carvalho, Volkard. Where's Thompson? James Thompson in trouble then, has not come across the timing beam. Well, 11th place, James Thompson has been badly delayed. Da Costa, Carvalho, Volkard, the top 3. There is Monroy's car, the only Mara Motorsport car to take to the track. There is James Thompson with Norbert Michaelis still behind him, and interestingly, Thomas Engstrom. Now, Engstrom was way off the pace, finished 9th in race 1. His best lap was 3 seconds slower than the race winners. But Thompson, Michaelis, they're not going to win this. Now then, Harry Volkard, 5th in race 1, is now the best placed driver Da Costa and Carvalho. Carvalho was 7th, Da Costa 8th. Harry Volkart in 3rd place. If he can now put in a move on Carvalho, by my maths, my mental arithmetic, I will warn you now, is not the best. That might put him in a winning position. No, Franz Engstler 2nd and 4th at the moment. That might be enough. Behind him is Urmas Kitsing, the Estonian, in a BMW. And then Per Polsen's BMW. But the interest, again, is going to be what happens to these guys, Thompson and Michaelis. Oh, and Michaelis goes by as Thompson drifts wide. Norman Michaelis scoots through. The turbo diesel has been such a difficult car to beat in World Touring Car Championship races, and this is meat and drink to it. Tight, twisty corners. It gets off the corners so well. They both go by Martins Birkins, so that puts Michaelis now in 7th or 8th possibly. And Michael Nukia, well, his championship defence got off to a disappointing start in race 1. He's won this title for the last 2 years, but the Dane, we're going to have to be satisfied with the Danish Touring Car Championship title. Now, where does it all go wrong? Now, was there contact from behind? Did Volkart get into the back of Carvalho? Carvalho certainly hit the tyre stack. Engstler there, Monroy. Thompson on the outside gets knocked into a spin. I thought he'd got through. Engstrom goes off. Volkart finds it all opening in front of him. Damage at the front and a puncture for Michael Nukia. So very disappointing for him. Da Costa leads for Chevrolet. Carvalho 2nd for Seat. Volkart 3rd for Chevrolet. 4th is Engstler, and closing. Engstler fastest first sector of everyone, but Da Costa the race leader with the fastest race lap, 1:29.0, and nobody else in the 29s apart from Engstler, 29.3 his best lap, which he has just set. So Da Costa easing away, and Engstrom again unable to stay with the cars in front. But Engstler now, this is a 3-way battle for 2nd. Carvalho in the Seat Leon. And this car being run by Veloso Motorsport. And Christian and Franz Engstler right behind him. Well, Michael Nukia's team just getting a tyre on that so they can push it back through the garage. I think certainly no point in him trying to rejoin. Well, that was a good pass by Harry Volkart, and Carvalho, having been caught there once, I think Engstler is going to find it much harder to catch him again. The BMW struggled a little in the very wet conditions. Engstler eventually cutting down what was initially a 4-second lead on behalf of Norbert Michaelis, in the end to 0.4 at the line. And in fact, for about half of the first 17 laps, Engstler was closing and then harassing Michaelis, but never managed to get by. It was just too wet. Michaelis, Engstrom both setting fastest laps, and Da Costa has pulled off. Where has he gone? What was I looking at when that happened? Duarte Felix Da Costa. Oh, was it his car then that had that puncture? Volkart leads, Carvalho 2nd, Engstler 3rd. Sorry, still trying to find out if find my pieces of paper, find out if Carvalho's car is a turbo diesel. Let's ignore that and just get on with it at the moment. Harry Volkart has the lead at the moment. Francisco Carvalho in 2nd place and Franz Engstler in 3rd. Now, Engstler 2nd in race 1, 3rd in race 2. At the moment, that is 8 for race 1 and tonight 6 for race 2. That's 14. Harry got 4 for race 1 and 10 for race 2. That's 14. The tie would be split if nothing were to change from here to the flag in favour of Harry Volkart, surely, because the race win has got to count better than any number of other podium positions. So, at the moment, Volkart with 14 points. Where is Michaelis? 4 and a win, 14 points. So they're tied as well. Both would be with a win and a 5th position, but Norbert Michaelis perhaps will get the advantage for having set pole in race 1. Well, something's going to have to change. I'm not sure what. Thompson, incidentally, by Michaelis. So Thompson 4th, 1:27.8 on the last lap, 2 seconds quicker than anybody else for James Thompson. Thompson then putting himself into the frame. Third in race 1, now fourth in race 2. That's 6 and 5, that's 11. That's not enough at the moment. Needs to get into this battle, does James Thompson, to try and have any chance of taking this title. Now then, the Seat drifts a little offline. Here comes the BMW. Engstler for second, he's alongside. This is rushing up to the back chicane, and he's going to take it. He's going to just sit on the inside until eventually Francisco Cavallo has to let him go through. The Seat could not hold its nose into the line, and as a result, Engstler now moves up into second and into the lead overall. So he is now in a top point scoring position. He is now the best placed point scorer in the European Touring Car Cup 2009. Harry Volkart still leading. Last lap his best, 1:29.5. 1:29.3 for Cavallo, 29.5 for Engstler, not his best lap either, but he has gone quicker than Volkart's managed at the moment. Thompson is closing in fourth, Michaelis in fifth. Oh dear, it's going to be a mathematical nightmare in the end, isn't it? Per Poulsen now ahead of Thomas Engstrom in the two Hondas in the background of the shot as we look at the quickest man on the previous lap, but again, no, we don't. James Thompson again quicker, 1:27.1. So Engstler being caught by Thompson, as is Cavallo in third place. And James Thompson is not going to waste much time getting by Francisco Cavallo, I don't think. James very well placed in into the first corner. He had a good start and was looking the best of the top three from race 1, but got shuffled out on the outside when the Seat got very sideways. Cavallo got on into the tyres, whether on his own or with help from behind, hard to tell. 27.164 last time round for Thompson. He's getting quicker and quicker. He'll be into the 26s soon. Lap record is a 1:14, set by a Formula 4 driver some 7 years ago now in the heat of the summer, so presumably a lot quicker than it is now. It's pretty cool here in Braga. Just, well, I suppose about not even an hour's drive north-northeast of Porto, so in the north of Portugal, about halfway between the sea and the Spanish border. Volkart leads by 2.1 from Engstler, Cavallo and Thompson all together. And Michaelis not making great progress. His fastest lap a 27.7, so over half a second quicker than anybody else and a full second quicker than Thompson, whose fastest lap is a 20. And that would probably be true, I suppose, of most of the tracks in which he's raced in the Danish Touring Car Championship, but it hasn't stopped Thompson taking 4 wins in Denmark this season. The Honda Accord Euro R is a very low drag car. Any sniff of a straight and it whistles along fabulously. But Thompson first has got to get by Cavallo. Cavallo is going to slow him right down. 26.7 Tomo's last lap, Cavallo 27.3, so 0.8 slower, 0.6 slower on the previous lap. Thompson will now be slowed right down by being stuck behind Cavallo, who's got to get by him on the straight. So these few corners, very, very important for James. He was quick early on when it was very wet, but the Honda just didn't seem to have the pace beyond mid-distance. Tyres here they're using are different from the ones that are used in the Danish Touring Car Championship. Now he's got a good run going. Volkart leads by 1.2, down from 2.1 over Engstler, Cavallo and Thompson. Is Thompson going to look to the inside? He's not. Michaelis under pressure though from Thomas Engstrom in the background, and that might be very decisive for Norbert Michaelis. The turbo diesel Seat Leon not shaking off the Honda. Thompson stuck here. Engstler at the moment is going to win the title. Second place as he was in race 1, and that will give him the points advantage. Oh, Thompson harassing Cavallo now. He's going to go to the inside. That's a good effort, and Cavallo will fight back, but James Thompson with a bit of an overlap. Not enough. No, not enough. Cuts back again to the inside. The Seat can't hold its nose in, and again the door is open, and Cavallo can't do anything about it. It understeers away from the apex. Thompson is up to third, so it's all changing. Stay with us here, live from Braga. Welcome back live to Braga after 9 of the 17 laps. Harry Volkart still leading in the Bamboo Motorsport Chevrolet Lachetti from Frank Sensler, who's now the fastest man of them all, 125.89. James Thompson in third. And Francisco Cavallo, the yellow Seat, in fourth place. Thomas Engström has just got by Norbert Michaelis for fifth position. So Michaelis, the race one winner and pole sitter, down to sixth, is now slipping out of his grasp this European Touring Car Cup. Per Poulsen is seventh. Duarte Felix da Costa up to eighth after rejoining from last place ahead of the Estonian Urmas Kitsing in ninth, and super production led by Martin Virkins of Latvia. Well, Engstler closing right up now on Harry Volkart, and he needs to. Look at this, he's got James Thompson right behind. At the moment, Engstler second in race one, Thompson was third. They're in the same positions now. Engstler is going to win this. If the positions are reversed, points will be tied. Have no idea how they'd settle that. Probably go back to who qualified better, I suppose, which would have been Thompson. No, Engstler, who was second on the grid. So Thompson needs essentially to win the race to take the title. And here he goes down the inside of Franz Engstler. That's a determined move, and Engstler's going to let him go. There's no option. The door wasn't exactly open, but Thompson came knocking and made a way by. So that's a critical pass for James Thompson. And now, look, right behind Franz Engstler, it's Francisco Cavallo. Now, Cavallo was only seventh in race one, so not up for the title realistically unless the three in front of him crash. But it could be very bad news for Franz Engstler. Well, now, bearing in mind that Engstler on the previous lap to the last one had set the fastest lap of the race, that means that Thompson again finding some pace from that Honda. Very good in the slipstream. Low drag Honda working well, and Engstler, well, I'm sure they're all on slick tyres. It's certainly not wet enough for wet weather tyres, but can James Thompson now, in the remaining, well, 6 laps after this, take the lead of the race from Harry Volkart and win the European Touring Car Cup? He hasn't had a title this year. Some good races in the Larders, some very good races in that Hartmann Honda in the Danish Championship, but he couldn't do the whole season because of other commitments, and so he ended up in the end finishing, I think, in fourth in the championship. And he didn't manage to win either on Phillip Island or at Bathurst in the Aussie V8 Supercar races he did. So to come away here as the European Touring Car Cup champion would be something, a little piece of silverware at the end of the season. Not going to pay very much in terms of money, but Harry Volkart, Sector 3, fastest of the race of anyone. So Volkart really doing very well indeed. Harry Volkart 14 points, and Engstler with back down to third place. We go back to where we were. They're both on 14 points. Thompson with 6 from race 1 and 8 from race 2, also on 14 points at the moment. But Volkart would win a tiebreak because he's won a race. So Thompson and Engstler tied. They'll have a second and a third apiece. But Volkart with 10 points in his hand at the moment for the win and 4 for fifth place in race 2. But now Thompson's going to start work. This is lap 12. After this, he has 5 more laps. Is Harry Volkart going to hold off double British Touring Car champion James Thompson's Honda? Oh no, Volkart skates out wide. Oh, that's really disappointing, and it's not going to stop either. Oh dear. What a shame. He drove such a strong race, and in race 1 as well. And Harry Volkart is going to drop right to the back of the field. The slicks, well, off-road tyres wouldn't get much purchase on that muddy grass, would they? What a disappointment. Looks like there's no major damage to the Bamboo Motorsport Chevrolet, but coming up past him there is Per Poulsen, who was in 7th. So Volkart will rejoin at the tail of the points, and James Thompson now in the lead of the race. Engstler in 2nd with Cavallo all over him. Engström 4th, Michaelis 5th. Michaelis race 1 winner would get 4 points for 5th position. So Thompson cannot afford any mistakes. At the moment, Thompson on 16, outscoring everybody else as things stand. Engstrom, the fastest man, and look here, replay. Hofolkar just carrying again a fraction too much speed into that long left-hander. Carr stepped out. Once he had even one slick tyre on that dirty grass, wet, filthy mud, then he was never going to be able to retain control. 12 laps completed, fastest lap of the race again for James Thompson. A 26.55 second sector and a 25.94. Now a 25.40. He's going quicker and quicker. That's half a second faster than his previous best as he passes a Super 1600 Fiesta of Carsten Seifert. Super 1600 and Super production cars did not make the 107% cut-off in qualifying, but, well, that's a Super production car, which isn't as powerful, doesn't have as good brakes or aerodynamics as the Super 2000s, and the Super 1600, it's only a 1600 engine. What was everybody expecting? So they were allowed to start. After all, they've all made the effort and spent the money to get over here, and this is very much a privateer's cup, as you can see. And Marcin Spierkens, well, it's probably a very long drive from Latvia. I think that you've got to be looking at 2 days to get here from Latvia. He's done a stonking job, stayed comfortably in front of that Super production class all the way through in the Civic Type R. So, might be looking at a double race win for Honda in the Super 2000 and in Super production. James Thompson leaving Franz Engstler behind. 125.4 on the last lap to Engstler's 25.89. So half a second between them. Thompson opening up the advantage. It was 1.97 at the line last time. It's going to be more like 2.5 seconds. He's catching a BMW, and that is Mikhail Zadzdich of Russia in his E46 spec 320 Super production car. First time the Russian's been in a rear-wheel drive car, so a tight, twisty, unfamiliar Braga circuit and lots of rain. That's been a bit of a baptism, well, not of fire. Gap now out to 1.8 seconds. Thompson catching the slower Super production car, goes straight by, whistles through into the braking area, and Zadzdich making it very straightforward for him there. That's a good gentlemanly bit of driving. Fastest race lap now for Franz Engstler. He's not given this up. 125.37 to the 125.40 of Thompson. So Thompson with 16 points for first and third. Engstler with 16 points for second and second. But Thompson, if nothing changes, will have a victory to tie-break the decision between them. Francisco Cavallo in that yellow Seat coming back strong as well. He's just set his fastest race lap at 125.88, but that was half a second slower than the BMW in front. And Engstrom coming through as well, fourth, the white and black Honda of Thomas Engstrom, and they are both threading their way by the BMW. The blue flags waving for Marcin Spierkens in the little Honda Civic Type R. And look at the battle there for third place. Cavallo in the yellow Seat, and pulling out to try and come around the outside is Thomas Engstrom. Engstrom a front runner and the only driver to have competed in every European Touring Car Cup weekend. And contact between the two, and that was Engstrom being very over-ambitious, I'm afraid. He couldn't make the corner, and has he got damage on the right front? It looks as though he might. And unfortunately, Zadzdich has been caught up in that, spinning around the outside of the recovering Cavallo. And yellow car there, Norbert Michaelis, might pick up third or fourth out of this. Well, you'd have to say Engstrom was perhaps a fraction ahead, but I'm not sure that the stewards are going to look on that very favourably. It was pretty much a racing incident. I don't know, penalties? Hard to call. I just think both of them could have used a bit more discretion, but I don't think there was anything cynical from either man. In the end, they both lost out. Now then, does this bring Norbert Michaelis back into play? And there's the Russian trying to go around the outside, trying to find a gap to escape into, and the wet dirt didn't help him. Thompson leading, heading on lap 16. completing lap 16 now and on to lap 17. Norbert Michaelis, our poleman and race 1 winner, comes across the line, not in third, so that's not enough. Carvalho is still in third, so Norbert Michaelis, a long way back then, is not going to come into the frame. James Thompson on the last lap. Third in race 1 gave him 6 points. Win in race 2 will give him 10, which equals 16. Franz Engsler is second. 8 and 8 equals 16. A tie at the moment between the two of them that should be decided in favour of James Thompson, because his points came with a win, as Engsler's 2 seconds did not. Engstrom in third at the moment, didn't even finish in the points in race 1. He was 9th. Carvalho 4th place. That'll give him 5 to the 2 he had earlier, which is only 7 points. So the other remaining question is Norbert Michaelis. Michaelis, 10 points for race 1. At the moment will get 4 for race 2. And unless the stewards decide that Carvalho was responsible, or Engstrom was responsible for the accident, and remove them from the results, that's not enough for Michaelis. If either Engstrom or Carvalho go from 3rd or 4th, things could change. But as it is victory in race 2 and a win in the European Touring Car Cup 2009 for James Thompson. And with Harry Volkard coming to the line, hopefully in 6th position, the Brits scored more points than any other nation in race 1 and will score more points than any other nation in race 2 as well, which means that Great Britain should win the Nations Cup as well. Well, Norbert Michaelis there in 5th place, just ahead of Harry Volkard, who spun out of the race lead a few laps ago. Michaelis, 5th place, not enough to take it. 4 points gives him a 14-point total, so he will be behind Engsler and Thompson with 16 each. But Thompson, with the win, that should do it on the tiebreak. We're certainly not going to be on air long enough for the stewards to apply any penalties, if required, to Engstrom and Carvalho. So as we leave it, then Thompson is the European Touring Car Cup champion for 2009. The 5th time this competition has been held. Richard Jönsson, the Swede, won in a BMW the 1st time in Italy. Estoril in Portugal, Ryan Sharp dominated the weekend. The GR Asia Seat Leons were 1st and 2nd for him and Eamon O'Brien in qualifying and in both races. The 3rd running of the Touring Car Cup was at Adria in 2007. And that was won by Mikael Nukia, as was last year's at the Salzburgring. But Nukia 7th in this race, 4th in the 1st, and that gives him 5-point total. So unless Carvalho or Engstrom are penalised, Thompson is the champion for 2009, and that well, will send him probably scurrying to the airport to fly off to Japan fairly quickly. Sunday here in Braga, and of course things start in Okayama middle of next week, so he's got to get to Japan presumably on a flight out on Monday from London, unless he can do Lisbon to Tokyo. Not sure if that's a possibility. And there, Harry Volkard, 2 British drivers representing the MSA, the British Sporting Governing Body. It looks as though the British team have won the Nations Cup, as Martins Birkis completes a perfect super production score. So for the 5th FIA European Touring Car Cup, the concept of chasing the good weather hasn't really worked again. Francisco Carvalho's chances, taking a bit of a battering in that first chicane on the 1st and close to the end of the race. But James Thompson fighting through in the Hartmann Honda, taking the lead from compatriot Harry Volkard.